I think the thing that people are afraid of is this becoming sentient, ultimately destroying us all and creating a world just for itself. I think that's more a work of science fiction. The thing that I think is more dangerous is that it starts to destroy certain jobs and whole industries.
The pace at which artificial intelligence has developed has spooked a lot of industry leaders, including Elon Musk. We're going to be addressing the open letter that was penned a few days ago with our next expert, Phillip Shoemaker. He is the CEO and executive director of Identity.com, and he's had a career working at big tech companies, including Apple. Welcome to the show, Phillip.
Thanks, David. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
You've been at Apple before, I believe. You were a senior director. Tell us about your role there and how your experience at a big tech company led to your decision to work in the space that you're in today.
Yeah, I started at Apple in 2009 when the App Store was just starting out. They realized that the App Store was going to be a lot larger than they expected. So they brought me in to run it, to make sure and hire the team, write all the policies, et cetera. So joining in 2009, I got to work with Steve Jobs to write the guidelines, to write the policies and go through the process, and ultimately hire a massive army of people to review, look at every single app that goes into the store. And I did that for about 7 years before I got the review times down to 1 day, met my milestones that I wanted to, personal milestones, and then got the heck out of there. But in doing so, I found that that developers could submit apps and that did really bad things. And then as we terminate them, they could just turn around and be back in the store in a matter of minutes. And that's when I realized that digital identity was the future, that it's very difficult to identify people online. And I wanted to create something that did that in a privacy preserving way. And that's how we created Identity.com.
Let's talk about AI. A recent letter, and it's called Pause Giant AI Experiments, an Open Letter. And now what this is really it's calling for industries, especially ChatGPT in particular and openai, to pause development. Their key message is, therefore, we call on AI labs to immediately pause for at least 6 months their training of AI systems more powerful than ChatGPT. They've listed a bunch of reasons in the letter. I'm going to post a link in the description where everyone should check that out. But generally speaking, they're concerned about this posing a risk to humanity, and I guess more broadly, the development of general artificial intelligence, which could, in their eyes, in their view, pose a risk to our way of life. Can you comment on this letter, and we'll touch on some specifics?
Yeah, this putting AI on pause letter was confusing to me at first, right? I mean, we've all seen the leaps and bounds that ChatGPT has done between 3.5, and 4.0 that they just released, and the amount of intelligence that we see in that in that latest large language model LLM is just intense. I mean, it's an incredible amount of savviness that this AI now suddenly has, and we're going to see continued increase on that. But, I think the big thing here is that it makes me wonder what's going on with this, asking them to pause for 6 months. Because if you think about it, the last few months have been embroiled of everybody talking about ChatGPT and nobody else, right? None of the competition has been cited. Nobody else has been in the news. It's all been OpenAI. And I find it fascinating that everybody wants them to put it on pause for 6 months for some reason. I think the exact line was planned for and managed with commensurate care and resources. That's what they're going to do in 6 months. But look, if you're asking me to put my company on hold, if I was, at OpenAI, if you want me to put my company on hold for 6 months, you got to tell me more than that. What's going to happen during those 6 months? Me as a user, I want to know, what are they going to be doing in the next 6 months? Can you illustrate it? Can you outline it for me and tell me what exactly is going to happen? Because I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. Competition is going to catch up, right? Is that it?
That's exactly what I was wondering when I was reading this letter, because Elon Musk and a lot of industry leaders who supported this letter have their own, or are developing their own, competing AI companies. And so how much of this is just, we are going to get into the specifics of AI, but how much of this is just industry competition and industry politics?
Yeah, and I think a majority of it is. It has to be. I mean, I look at some of the companies that I really trust, like Numenta and others like that, that were these AI companies that are doing it for the sake of humanity, right? They want to make these machines that really think and move and have feelings, et cetera. And not a lot of those CEOs are actually signing this letter. So I look at it and I see it, some of the lower level individuals at those companies. It's some of the ones that are competing directly against them. They're signing that letter. And then there's a lot of the unwashed masses that don't really know a lot about AI that are signing this because there's fear, right? There's the fear that this is going to become alive one day, a la Terminator 2 and Terminator, and destroy us all, right? That is the fear that Hollywood's put into us. So I believe a majority of it has to be competition.
First of all, let's describe the differences between ChatGPT 2, 3, and then 4, and then beyond. 2 was a language model based purely on text, I believe. ChatGPT 3 integrated some imagery and video capabilities. What's the difference between 3 and 4?
Well, 4 was just they're testing it on they're training it on a lot more unsupervised data. So it's getting a lot more access to data that the previous ones hadn't gotten. But also they've worked hard on the reasoning so that ChatGPT can not only just spit out information that you need, but the reasoning behind the information they've given. And this is this is a really interesting nuance because when we were in school and we had to do math, they'd always say, okay, prove your work, right? Prove the answer. Go through that. And now you can ask ChatGPT to basically prove their work and tell us, well, how did you get to this reasoning? And that is some next level stuff, right? That critical reasoning is just tough to be able to program into a system. And this is getting it automatically through unsupervised data. So the language models are changing a bit, but they're also able to just focus it on reasoning more so than just grokking raw data.
The concern here is that AI is heading towards general artificial intelligence and perhaps sentience, which is probably the ultimate goal of some engineers. Can you just describe to us what general artificial intelligence is and how that's different from the AI we have today?
Well, for the most part, what most of us have wanted AIs to do is to do specific tasks, right? They're not looking for a general theory or a general, they don't want another person doing the work, right? You want somebody that just focuses, you want an AI that focuses on a specific task and it doesn't take any leeway beyond that. So general artificial intelligence is just being able to understand what you're showing it and then giving you a response to that and nothing more. Don't go beyond that. Right. And as soon as you start going beyond that, that's where people start running into these doomsday scenarios. So I'll give you an example. The belief is that if we ultimately one day create an AI and a robot or whatever that we say needs to clean up the environment, the first thing it'll do is it'll go out to the sand and start picking up the garbage. It'll start filtering air. But then and that's the task you want. That's the idea of general AI. It's just doing the task at hand. It's cleaning up the environment. That's great. But when it reasons and it starts doing critical reasoning and looking at, okay, well, why is this garbage? Why does it keep reappearing? Oh, it's these pesky humans that are running around that are causing all of this information overload. That's a problem. And as soon as you do that and it moves beyond that, we're going to run into an issue where it starts to eliminate humans as the cause of the pollution, and that's where you get into this beyond just general AI.
Opponents of artificial general intelligence have stated that this could pose an existential threat to humanity. As you pointed out, it becomes more general and starts replacing us in more general tasks instead of specialized tasks. And especially as AI heads towards superintelligence, which is intelligence beyond what humans have, this is something that people have literally never seen in the existence of humanity. We've never experienced any sort of intelligence beyond ours before. And naturally, that scares people. Does it scare you?
Yeah, I'm a big science fiction reader, so everything that I've read tells me to be afraid of this, right? Absolutely, to be afraid of this. And it's funny because I even told somebody recently that I didn't want to sign that list of people asking OpenAI to pause because I don't want to be on ChatGPT's bad side, right? But I said that in a jest, right? It's all, to me, Yes, there is the possibility that we go down this road one day. But look, all of these things can be solved with technology. You can always put checks and balances in place to ensure that this doesn't happen. You're not, as long as you're not having the AI rewrite its own code to remove some of those checks and balances, you're fine. I don't see an issue with that. But look, sure, I think the thing that people are afraid of is this becoming sentient, ultimately destroying us all and creating a world just for itself. I think that's more a work of science fiction. The thing that I think is more dangerous is that it starts to destroy certain jobs and whole industries, because people can use OpenAI and ChatGPT to do and AI in general to do a lot of the work that would otherwise be employed by a group or segment of people. And we're not really, I don't think we're really ready for that kind of just raw destruction of jobs at this point. To me, it's more about the economy and less about this science fiction doomsday scenario.
Opponents of this letter, well, opponents of the idea that general AI or AI at large poses a risk to humanity include Bill Gates, actually, who wrote an open letter just a few days ago called "The Age of AI Has Begun." I'll put a link to that as well in the description. And he made a number of points for AI, one of which is that perhaps it could help reduce inequality in our world. Is this possible? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I think Bill is a very smart man, and I do look twice at things he says. And to me, yeah, I think there is that possibility. I think to me, the benefits that we're going to get out of AI, as far as raw productivity and furthering the human race, is going to be so much more powerful than anything negative that could bring to us. But the idea of it helping to remove these inequality issues, et cetera. I mean, I think it sounds plausible. I just don't. I'm trying to scratching my head and trying to figure out how it's actually going to work. Because for me, there are different ways of handling inequality, and a lot of it has to do around the company I run, identity. I don't know how AI is going to help us drive that forward, to be honest.
Let's maybe talk about some industry applications.
Yeah.
I was reading this Twitter thread between Jan LeCun and Elon Musk. Jan is one of the colloquially known as one of the godfathers of AI, professor now at NYU. He tweeted that some folks say, "I'm scared of AGI, artificial general intelligence." Are they scared of flying? No, not because airplanes can't crash, but because engineers have made airliners very safe. Why would AI be any different? Why would AI engineers be more scared of AI than aircraft engineers were scared of flying? So it's not. Don't hate the tool. Hate the people behind the tool is what they say. But what can this tool be used for? Practical applications of AI or AGI in the future that could enhance productivity on a wider scale for humanity, like you say.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. The thing that we're seeing between things like ChatGPT and Midjourney, for instance, is that the whole content creation process has been flipped on its ear, right? That is rather than having to know how to design and build out this beautiful artwork in Photoshop or Illustrator and Canva. Instead, you're becoming a prompt engineer. You're writing these prompts to be able to just to easily create artwork that you can then leverage and be able to turn that into whatever you want. Maybe it's memes, maybe it's in the future, it's marketing materials, and then beyond that, it's directing movies, right? That's where I see this really changing, is in the content creation side of the world, between ChatGPT writing scripts for you and Midjourney and technology like that, creating the animations, the keyframes, and the key graphics for you. This is going to change the world as far as just storytelling in general. That's one of the big pieces. But look, it gets bigger than that as well. We see these things as I was able to go onto my website within just a few clicks and be able to train ChatGPT on some of our protocol white papers, which are complicated, long, very nerdy documents. And now you have an AI in the system that can just answer those questions better than a human can, and can tell you anything you need to know about those documents without more than 5 minutes of training on it. And 5 minutes was a stretch. I think it was more like 30 seconds. And that's the kind of stuff that we're going to see just replacing engineers, We're going to see them replacing content creators in general.
Speaking of replacing people, in theory, couldn't AI or any, machine outfitted with AI replace any job in existence? ChatGPT is just hardware or software rather. But suppose you were to pair that software with hardware that works or rivals human dexterity and strength. I'm talking about humanoid robots, for example. In theory, couldn't we all be replaced by some sort of robot advanced enough?
Yeah, it's going to happen, right? Ultimately, one day, all of this will be automated, this kind of stuff. But there's always going to be, there always needs to be the puppeteers, right? The ones that and these prompt engineers and things along those lines that help control these devices, right? That help tell them what to do to be the marionette, right? Or to be able to be the puppeteer that's controlling the marionette. Because a lot of these things are ultimately difficult for it to understand the difference between A and B. So, for example, when we want to have when we ship something through Amazon, right now there's a lot of people there that go and unload those things, et cetera, and pack them up, ship them out. Those are really dexterous tasks. They're difficult to do through a general system, and those kind of things are going to be done by humans for many, many years until we start getting the physical world conquered. And I think that's where we start to get scared, right? When you see things like Black Mirror and you see these robotic dogs that have brains like ChatGPT, it starts making people nervous if they can come and do harm to individuals. So the concept, the idea of a robot going into an Amazon warehouse and packing and unloading and shipping out packages scares the hell out of most people, probably because they see a future like Black Mirror where that robot will ultimately say, I quit, I just want to do something else, and that might be harming humans. But I think for the most part, most jobs will be able to be automated out, through AI and robotics. But ultimately, there still needs to be people controlling them as well. It's not going to be a free-for-all.
You're right. Sci-fi movies sell better when they're painting AI or robots as the bad guys. I'm trying to think of a movie where we have good robot guys. RoboCop.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the only example that I can think of. But then Elon Musk a few years ago called for a ban on integrating military technology with AI because I think he's afraid of Skynet. So,
right.
I think it'll be a while before we see RoboCop. I want to link this back to data and data privacy, which is ultimately what your company is involved with. Why is it important that we have decentralized data storage?
Well, I find it interesting that this whole data privacy, if you look at data, if you look at ChatGPT and these large language models, they just grok data, right? They've ingested and been trained on a lot of unsupervised data, which means they take the good and the bad on the internet and ingest it and take it as gospel, right? Take it as the truth. And they suck in all this data. I don't know if you saw this recently. I mean, if you think about it, it has all this data. It's ingested all my private data, all of your private data. Whatever we've put out there on the web, ChatGPT has ingested, right? Think that through, right? It's ingested everything that's on the web that it can get its hands on, and it will continue to do so with these ChatGPT plugins. It can get more access to more data, et cetera. So in doing so, it's now embodies a lot of our private information, right? It has it inside its soul, if you will. And so what does that mean as far as all of these POPIA, GDPR, CCPA, all of these compliance laws, data privacy laws, makes you wonder what's going on there. If you look at what Italy did, Italy recently banned it for GDPR, banned ChatGPT for GDPR compliant reasons. And because it has all of this data, but it has as much data as Google and Bing and those search engines do. So that's one of these things that you have to scratch your head and wonder, where does a AI system live as far as GDPR and other privacy related concerns are? To me, I think all my data should be controlled by me on my device somewhere. And if somebody wants to get access to my data, they can ping me, and I can say, it might say Facebook wants to know what your eating preferences are, and I can tell Facebook to pound sand and they don't get any of this. Or I could say, yeah, you know what? I'm fine with Facebook having that information as long as they don't have my social security number and all of this other stuff that I think is more important to me. And maybe you ultimately get get paid for being able to donate your data to science, if you will, right? To technology companies. That's how I believe we should all be in control of all of this information that represents us online. And you need to do so in a very secure, encrypted way, not by having a database in the cloud that anyone can hack.
Just to play devil's advocate now, Philip, some would argue that any form of data privacy protection would be a moot point going forward because of the coming of CBDCs. Our transactions could be stored on the blockchain, and the government, or actually anybody, could, in theory, access what we do with our money. So it's not about storing my personal information. My way of life is going to be stored on the blockchain, right? How would you respond to this?
I'm not a fan of CBDCs. I think they are exactly what you're saying. They're a tool for more surveillance, right? To be able to see what I do, where I spend my money, where it's going. To me, I'm a believer. I've been a big believer in Web3 and this whole crypto world since 2011 when I got the white paper, the Bitcoin white paper. To me, it is one of the biggest changing things in my lifetime that I've seen. And I worry about CBDCs because I think they are a surveillance tool, and I don't support them. I do not want the U.S. to create them. But look, it might ultimately be happening. I talk to legislators all the time and regulators about not moving forward with CBDCs, but government's going to do what they want to do, and that's going to be a difficult hill to climb once this happens. I worry about it.
Philip, I'd like to ask you about the future of data storage technology. As you know, the amount of storage we produce and store is growing exponentially every day. And so the question for engineers is, how do we store a larger amount of data into a smaller amount of physical storage space? And I think that's where innovative solutions like DNA storage could potentially come in. I'm reading this article from Scientific American, and it said that, consider this, humanity will generate an estimated 33 zettabytes of data by 2025. That's 3.3 followed by 22 zeros. DNA storage can squeeze all that information into a ping pong ball with room to spare. The 74 million bytes of information in the Library of Congress could be crammed into a DNA archive the size of a poppy seed, 6,000 times over. Split the seed in half, and you could store all of Facebook's data. Is this technology something you've looked into?
Yeah, for us, we haven't been looking at that. For us, we're still focused really much on the immediate future. It's all about storing it in a decentralized manner, which has its own problems. But look, I think storing information in DNA, which we've seen in the real world, animals do it as a way to store memories about things that are dangerous, animals that are dangerous, things that are dangerous to its survival. That we see that even the smallest creatures are able to embed certain sort of warnings in DNA for future offspring to be able to see and not have to get destroyed by that same path. It would be great to be able to store this kind of information in a DNA type of way, because as you said, it's super, it stores it in what's called a sparse matrix, right? It stores it in a way that uses so little data to store so much information. It's just mind-boggling. So yes, we have to learn from the way DNA does this as a way to store it ultimately on the chain, because right now, I don't want any of my PII stored up on the blockchain. As you were saying earlier, we're all going to be on the blockchain. That is a terrible place to be because it's infinitely transparent. And one day, quantum computers will be able to break the hashes and be able to read everything that's up there. And you know how blockchain works. Once it's up there forever.
Well, Philip, I enjoyed our conversation. Hopefully next time I speak to you, it wouldn't be a robot. I do think my job could be done by a robot with a sufficiently advanced AI. I think podcasters. It'll be very interesting actually to listen to a robot podcaster, especially robots talking to themselves. I tune into that. But for now, you're stuck with the human. Thank you for being on my show, Philip. I enjoyed our conversation, and good luck to your venture. We'll speak again soon.
Great, thank you, David.
And thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.